Hi, good morning. My name is Jen Milliken. I'm here at my family's dairy. It's called Stotz Dairy. We're in Buckeye, Arizona. The dairy's 40 years old. My dad started the dairy 40 years ago, and I came back 10 years ago to help him run the dairy. I'm one of the managers now. I am mainly in charge of the young stock, the maternity area, and purchasing. We have just around 20,000 cows that live on the dairy. About 10,000 of them will be the cows that are providing milk. The rest of them are all the younger calves that are growing up to someday come work on the dairy. So I would love to take you guys around, show you all the different parts of the dairy, and show you especially where all the calves are that you guys are going to be looking at. Come on, let's go. So we're at the calf barn now. This is where the calves come right after they're born until they're 2 months old. When they're born, we leave them with the mom for a long enough time that she's able to lick them off and get them cleaned up and ready to go. And then we take them, we give them a vaccine, we help finish cleaning them off, and we put a special disinfectant on their umbilical cord called iodine so that they don't get sick. After that, we will give them their first bottle. It's called colostrum. It's the first milk that the cow makes. It's basically milk, but it's a lot richer and stronger. It's full of immunoglobulins, which the baby calf is going to need to create her own immune system. If she doesn't get the immunoglobulins out of the colostrum, she has a lot bigger chance of getting sick. So after that, they'll bring her over to the calf barn. They put her in one of her own individual hutch, or if you want to call it a calf crib, and that's where she'll live until she's 2 months old. We do this for safety reasons. We keep them separated. I think you guys have probably heard the term social distancing now. This is so that if one of the calves gets sick, she doesn't get all of her friends sick as well. So while she lives here, she gets as much water as she wants to drink, she gets as much grain as she can eat, and then she's going to get milk twice a day. We milk all of their moms, and then we go down to the milk barn, we bring the milk back, we pasteurize it to make sure that it's as safe and healthy as possible for the calves, and then we feed them as much milk as they can drink twice a day. So one thing that you will notice with our calves is that they are on these orange rubber mats. They are raised up off the ground by about 1.5 feet, and that's to provide airflow for the calf. In Arizona, it gets really hot, and one of the main things we need to do is to make sure that the calf is staying cool. We have that covered a couple of different ways. One of them is just providing airflow underneath the calf. You can also see we have fans up on the roof that we can turn on when it gets hot to provide more air movement. And then we also have sprinklers above the calf that we can turn on that will mist her, kind of like when you go to an outside restaurant when it's outside and it's hot, and we can have the mist go, they have the fans going, the calves are up off the ground. That provides them a lot of airflow so that they can stay as comfortable as possible. This also helps that when the cow pees or poops, all of her pee and poop go through the grating, they go down on the ground, and then we can flush the barn so that all of the waste comes down and gets collected in the drain down here. We run it through to our methane digester, and that's where we make energy by collecting the methane. Here you can see one of the calf feeders feeding milk that we got from the calf barn back to the baby calves. All of the calves are given buckets for the first 2 days, but when they get 3 days old, we train them how to drink out of the buckets. And they each get 6 quarts twice a day. So when the calves are ready to come outside, when they're 2 months old, that's when they graduate to the outside pens. We will load them up into this trailer right here. We go weigh them to make sure that they've been eating enough, and then we can move them to the outside pens out here where they learn how to be in a group. We're able to do this because at 2 months old, they have gotten a good enough immune system that they won't be getting each other sick, so we don't need to worry about social distancing as much. So the calves live outside for the rest of their life. After they turn 2 months old, then they're going to be out here. We start them out in really small pens with groups of 25, because that way they can get used to living with each other, they get used to playing with each other, and they kind of start learning how to establish a group dynamic. You can see they're still getting the grain that they got when they were babies. It's the same food so that they don't get too much of a change. They get to live out in the pen inside that blue bucket way out in the middle of the pen. They have more grain so that they can eat it even if it's super hot outside. And then when they're 3 months old, we'll move them into a bigger pen and we start giving them alfalfa, or you might call it hay. We give them that for the first time because their stomach is finally old enough to learn how to digest it. So when they're older than 3 months old is when they'll start moving into pens that are closer to 50 to 60 calves at a time. And you'll see they get alfalfa and grain together. So it starts being more of a mix of the food since they're old enough that their stomachs can handle it. So when the cows turn 7 months old is when they're not considered calves anymore. They're now considered heifers, which is kind of like a teenager cow. So at this point, we can move them into even bigger pens. They're going to be in groups of around 120 to 150, and their food gets a little bit different. Now we can start adding things like corn silage into it. And another cool thing that we do is we feed old expired vegetables from all of the local Walmarts. So if you look at their food, you'll see that they have grain, they have hay, they have corn silage, and they also have a potato. Here we are at the commodity barn, which is what we call the area where we store all of the cows' food. You can see there is a big tractor here. It's going to have a big wagon behind it, and that's where we put all of the cows' food, all the separate ingredients, and it has big spinning razor blades in the back that we use to mix it all so that the cows are eating the same size bite and that she's getting the right blend of ingredients every time she takes a different bite. So you see he has a big bucket full of hay in there. He's going to dump it into the back of the wagon and then he'll go get another ingredient. We measure everything to make sure that the cows are getting exactly what they need. So when he gets done with that ingredient, he'll go and get another scoop and also add that to it until he's done with the recipe. A lot of ingredients that cows eat are stuff that would normally end up in the dump. Like right here, we're looking at almond hulls, which is what's left over after you take the almond out. Other stuff that we feed that would be considered byproducts that would otherwise end up in the trash are cottonseed. We feed bakery, which is old expired donuts and bread and stuff all blended up. And then I already said that we feed the vegetables that Walmart gives us that are too old for people to eat, but cows still think it tastes good. So food that would otherwise end up in the dump, instead we are able to feed it to the cows and they use it to get energy to make milk so that you guys have milk to drink, and we can use it to turn that into cheese or yogurt or ice cream, all of those delicious dairy products. Oh, here you can see the feed wagon is now going to pull up and put out the fresh feed that the cows will have available once they get back from the milk barn. So that way they can come back and have lunch as soon as they get done working. Now we're at the milk barn. We actually have 4 different milk barns here at Stotz Dairy. The oldest one can milk 40 cows at a time. The second one can milk 60 cows at a time. And then this one can actually, it's 2 different milk barns that we can milk 80 cows, 80 on either side. So actually 160 cows at a time. This is the milk room. This is where the milk truck actually hooks up. You can see that there's all the pipes where the milk truck can hook up his pipes to transfer all the milk out of the big tank into his tank, and then they take it out to the processing plant where they will turn it into all of the products that you can buy at the grocery store. We'll take you through to the cooling, where we take the milk down from the cow's natural body temperature of over 100 degrees to less than 38 degrees. This is the big plate cooler that we use. So all of the milk will come out at around 100 degrees, and then it gets cooled down to 37 degrees, just in this small area. After it goes through there, it'll go into these big tanks where it's held until the milk truck comes. You can see all the cows come in through the back. They all line up to get milked. The machine that we put on their udder is a combination of a vacuum and a suction. It just gently massages the milk out. The cows like it, they think it feels good. You can see the last cows just got done being milked. So now the new ones are gonna come on through. They do this voluntarily because they like it. You can see that the milkers are starting to prep the cows. They will take test squirts from all of the teats first to tell the cow that it's time to start milking, and also to check and make sure that the milk is the right quality, that it's as healthy as it can be. And then after that, we use the teat scrubber, which is kind of like a cow car wash, and it cleans the teats even better, gets the cow prepped and makes it so that she knows that it's time to give milk now. And then once he's done 10 cows, he will go back and he'll hook up the machines. The machines have an automatic detacher on it where they come off as soon as they can tell that the cow doesn't have milk anymore. You can see all the milk coming through in that little glass ball. Then it'll go down the pipe into these big pipes that go along the ground, where it goes up to where I showed you where the refrigerator, the plate cooler was earlier. And now you can see here he is putting that disinfectant on the cow's udders so that no bacteria can climb up into her teats when she's on her way back to the pen. It takes around 5 to 10 minutes for a cow to be milked, and she'll be in the milk barn for less than an hour between the time that she first walks in and enters the shower pen, so she goes into the holding pen where she drip dries, to where she takes her turn getting milked and goes back to her food. So for the whole day, she'll spend less than 3 hours in the milk barn, and she'll spend less than half an hour actually getting milked. Most milk cows can give between 6 to 10 gallons of milk a day, which is around 100 glasses of milk. And now she's done, so they'll dip that last cow. He's telling them to go ahead and push the button. And now all the cows are gonna leave and go back to their pen. So here's where all the cows are coming back to their pen from the milk barn. You see most of them are going to get a drink. Other ones are going straight up to get some food. And then this is the pen of cows that's in the milk barn right now. You can see that it's empty and that the pen scraper is in there cleaning out their pen. What he does is he's cleaning out all of the wet manure that they pooped since the last time he was here, which is every morning. He drags it out into the sun, and then he brings fresh manure back underneath that has been composted, so it's dry and fluffy, so that they have a comfortable place to lay down. Now we are at the milk cow housing, which is the adult cows, the ones that are making the milk. Cows only make milk after they've had a baby, and they usually have their first baby when they're 2 years old. I like to tell people that how it's normally 7 years for a dog equals 1 year for a person. With cows, it's more like 10 years. So when she's 2 years old, that'll be about 20 if you're thinking people years. That'll be when she has her first baby, and then she becomes a milk cow. At that point, she'll move into one of these big pens, and she lives in this pen all day long until she goes to the milk barn 3 times a day. But they get food, they have water, we have vets that come check them out in the pen to make sure that they're healthy. You can see that they have big fans and coolers. When it gets really hot, we have sprinklers that we can turn on to cool them down while they're eating. And then when it's not as hot, they have a big open dry lot where they can spend their time hanging out with their friends. It's still hot right now, so most of the cows are either eating or under the shade. Well, thank you guys again for coming with me on this tour of Stotz Dairy. I really appreciate that you're interested in learning about dairies and milk and where it comes from. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Please write me letters. I want to get as many questions as possible, and I'd love to answer them all. So in the meanwhile, go home, drink some milk, eat some cheese, have some ice cream, and don't forget to thank a cow. Bye.